Well, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just premiered on ABC, and I think it's off to a good start. We'll see how it goes from here. I'm kind of hesitant to judge this one because it is the pilot, it is the setup, but it's kind of a weird setup for a TV series, and it has a very interesting world, but they don't explain the world because they don't have to, because they had 5 movies explain it. It's one of those weird. It's a very unusual pilot in that, and it's not a problem because most people that are seeing the show have seen the movies, or have probably at least heard about them, that they know stuff's going on, and even then they kind of throw some hints. So, I mean, if you haven't, at least watch the Avengers. If you haven't seen this is very much a direct take off the Avengers. But very good. I mean, it's setting up the characters. It's setting up how Josh Whedon this will be. But, I mean, it is the pilot episode. And so I think to a large degree, pilots can be very, very different from how the rest of the show, because, yeah, this episode had Josh Whedon writing it, Josh Whedon directing it. And I think there was a bit of a delay. I think this is the actual pilot for the series as well, which means there's probably going to be a couple months shooting delay between when this was filmed and then when next episode was filmed. And I think probably in between that time they made some changes, some character changes and such. And we're also going to see next week what the actual quality, because they're going to put more than your average amount of special effects in the pilot episode in order to get you hooked in, in order to also wow the crew. So it's kind of difficult to judge this because it is extremely important when you have a new show. It's the first episode and the second episode that really set what things are going to be like. Also, you'll kind of get the feeling next episode, is this going to be a monster of the week? Is this going to be extremely episodic, where you have to watch every episode, it's kind of a complex plot, or is it going to be what I like to call the mix, where it's a monster of the week per se episode, or villain of the week, or incident of the week, whatever you want to call it, format, but the subplot in every episode, there's the same subplot throughout the season. So they're dealing with the same thing in the background. To a degree, NCIS does that a lot, which ironically also came back tonight. But it's going to be a question. I'm slightly suspicious that it's going to be like NCIS, where every episode there's an ongoing subplot that every episode is building on, and every couple of episodes it'll be centered around that subplot that strings through the season. But outside that subplot, they're having fun. I actually think that's a pretty good mix for writing, because it means you can have the fun of just, when you're writing a show, doing whatever the hell you want, pulling out, okay, we're going to do something crazy this episode, and be able to get away with it, while still having that captivation to hook you in. Anyway, let's get back to the actual episode. The cast, the setup is they basically, in the wake of New York, although it's kind of vague as how after this is. I'm still kind of a bit vague on the timeline of where this falls. It's post Avengers, yes, but is it a year after the Avengers? Is it a month after the Avengers? It's hard to tell. It definitely takes place slightly after the events of Iron Man 3, but I forget how long after Iron Man 3. I think Iron Man 3 is about a year. I could be wrong, though, because they mention extremists in this. They're aware of extremists. So that must have been shortly after Iron Man 3. Although they did mention, I'll get into. Some people are going to say, the Coulson mentions how long he was in Tahiti. We'll get into that little thing in a second, because right after that they dropped a little bit of a hint. But yeah, so there's a bit of a vagueness, but yeah, basically S.H.I.E.L.D's assembling a response team to be able to handle the new developments in-house, basically. Yeah, they can't call upon the Avengers because I think I pretty much summed this up in Iron Man 3, how they're kind of spread out, they're doing their own thing, and that's like a team you can't just assemble. Really, the way they set it up in the cinematic universe is like, yeah, the Avengers could probably be called back together, but it's going to take some effort. They're not a group that's like solidly built in. Sorry, there as I sip my tea. So, and this would make sense that S.H.I.E.L.D. would have some sort of specialized response team, who of course Coulson's in charge of. Coulson being extremely Joss Whedon-y, very much like he was in the Avengers. It helps in that you had the same actor with the same director, and he's got that. He fits very well into Joss Whedon, script, that kind of banter, that kind of smart. I don't know how would you describe that. That very smart, fast, very aware dialogue, and not only aware, but like aware of the counters. Like there's an interview scene, and like they're in an interrogation, and of course the one person quips back, it's like, oh, you're gonna give me the choice where, the good choice and the bad choice, and he's basically like, no. But it's very hard to describe Joss Whedon's writing, and Coulson, but you probably know he's still Coulson. Maybe. I'll get into that. They definitely hint. They kind of say outright that Fury lied and made up the whole thing with Coulson. It turns out he was just injured, he died, but it was only for like 40 seconds. And they revived him in order to motivate the Avengers, and so they shipped him off to like Tahiti for a couple months to recover. But it's quite clear that when he leaves the room, Hill's like, well, he doesn't really know. So because people were debating how Coulson comes back, so you're very much left wondering by that. It's very obvious when they lay that in there. It's like, he really doesn't know at all, does he? What happened? So there's obviously that wasn't the case. So you're left kind of wondering, is this the real Phil Coulson? And I haven't seen anything pop up. I'm sure people are, as I'm recording this, writing what their fan theories are. And I'm guessing one's going to be the life model decoy, which is from the comics, and Stark kind of threw it as a kind of quippy little reference in the Avengers, but like basically he's a robot that is designed to extremely replicate a human's personality, which is a possibility. Another possibility is that he is Phil Coulson, but something has been done to him. Could be something with Extremis. That seems a little soon. Or it could be perhaps some sort of tie-in with the Thor film. Or they could be pulling out something completely different. Something that like resurrected him. Obviously when you're dealing with Thor, you've got that like magic element. So there could be something with that. Considering it's the big movie that's coming out, there might be some sort of tie-in. This is a 22 episode season, so it's certainly going to be playing in November. I'm going to guess after about 10, 11 episodes, there's going to be a mid-season break. So I'm going to actually, speaking of which, that'll be kind of interesting to see how they do a mid-season break, and if they time it to come back on just in time for Captain America 2, which I forget the release date for Captain America 2, but we'll see how they kind of tie this in with events going on with the rest of the cinematic universe. As in for the rest of the cast, which I've been neglecting, and I just had my list. You got Ming-Na Wen, I think that's how you pronounce that, as Agent Melinda May. I'm not sure if she's from the comics. She's kind of like the pilot. She's definitely got a past. She kind of doesn't really want to be there, but she's got a very, like, she has a reputation of being like, oh my, you're the agent. She almost get the vibe like this. She's kind of an equal to Black Widow. Brett Dalton as Agent Grant Ward, who of course a steadfast Whedon alumnus. You can see his. By the way, Reverend Booker from Firefly makes a small cameo. Actually, I'm not sure if it's a cameo or if he's going to be coming back in later episodes. Sorry, lost my page. Actually, I'm not sure if he was from Blue Bloods Nurses. Yeah, maybe not. Good thing I clicked on that. Because now that I look at his filmography, I don't see. I thought he was from Angel for some reason. So yeah, I suppose I was wrong on that. So I retract my previous comment. Well, not on the Reverend Booker stuff, but on Brett Dalton's character, or Brett Dalton. Oh well. He's the agent. He plays your typical Black Ops agent. He does the stuff. He's the specialist. He's your action guy. And of course, his character butts head with B. Actually, that's kind of a thing. They get very clear that basically the team Coulson has assembled, he's picking people with really bad personality traits, and I'm curious what he's gonna give an excuse other than. Actually, I could kind of see Coulson going because the drama entertains me. I could totally see his character just saying that, and you know what? It's probably a better excuse than what they would normally try to come up with, like for some sort of reason. Like he just assembled like these guys because he thought having these people that normally don't work well together for the drama. Go for it. Chloe Bennett as Skye. Yes, pronounced Skye, who is a hacker. It's a superhero kind of groupie. In this episode, she's kind of running her own thing where she's like tracking superheroes, and of course, she's like originally against S.H.I.E.L.D. and like kind of a conspiracy theorist. They find her, basically wind up recruiting her because Coulson's like, yeah, she's an asset. We're gonna use her. Dalton's just like, what? Why? We'll see how her dynamic with the rest of the team works. Probably, actually, in episode 3, I'm guessing, because right now there's the episode list on Wikipedia has 1, 2, and 3 with like a one-sentence plot synopsis. Episode 3 is called The Asset. That's what they're calling her. So I guess that's going to be the episode centered around her. Team must investigate the kidnapping of a scientist relying on Skye when the plane goes away. I can't ever pronounce that word. Yeah, no, graduate school level education here, ladies and gentlemen. It's pretty sad. My head is dropped down. Yet I can spell penultimate and use that fine. Go figure. Anyway, so probably not till episode 3 to really get a good sense of that character. Again, probably most of these characters we're really not going to get a good sense till episode 2. Of course, rounding out the cast of main characters, you got the 2 scientist characters. One's an engineer, one's life sciences, i.e. she's the biologist of the group. So, one guy deals with the robot stuff, the other person will deal with anything that's biological. Of course, that's Ian Casterkek, whatever, as Agent Leo Fitz, and Elizabeth Henstridge as Agent Gemma Simmons. Those are your 2 scientists. They say agent, they don't wear the suits. They're the 2 scientist characters. Which kind of works good. That seems to be the new thing. They used to have 1 scientist character. Now they need 2 so that they can debate each other. And of course they'll be from different fields. Now granted, in real life, if you're assembling a team of people, you don't want 1 science person. You want a couple of science people, each with their own specializations. I will grant you that one. But it is certainly insane. You see that in Pacific Rim. Other stuff coming out now is you can't just have 1 scientist guy. You need at least 2 or 3 scientist people. So you have your team of tech guys. Even in the X-Files kind of started that when they had the lone gunman. To a degree, like you have a couple guys so they could have their debates. Before that, you had the one science person. And that's basically it. Of course, Agent Hill returned for a quick cameo. I think, and don't hold me to this, I think she shot a couple of other quick little cameos. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, why we didn't have him. Like, cause, like, I want you shot like one or two lines, because what we're gonna have, basically he has her there. He can shoot her, a couple of her lines is sitting in that same control room set, and just have like just a couple of lines where she's like calling Coulson. Like, Coulson, there's something weird going on in Brazil. I need you to fly down there. Okay, like that's it. Like, that's literally not that hard to do. Once you're already there, the cameras are all set up. It's like, hey, just real quick, say this line while you're holding onto your headset. Great, we'll like throw that in another episode. Oh, by the way, here's another line. I need you to come back here to DC and talk with director. He wants to see you. Okay, on the way. Or kind of a quick pickup line here. Let's go like, oh, okay, I can check out this doctor whoever for you. Quick, okay, he's a biologist. Simple stuff like that. You might see her pop up in a couple other extra cameos, because you basically need a day of shooting and boom. Cut that up and you can lay that all over a huge amount of the season. Honestly, you'll be surprised how many people that when they're in movies, if they're in like one location and basically the same shot throughout, it might seem like they're in a lot of the movie, but in like reality, when they filmed it, that was like one person did like 1, maybe 2 days worth of filming, and that's it. They were done. And yet you think they have such a big part, but in really it's just like it's like a minute worth of screen time split up throughout the film. Going off on a little tangent there. Special effects, very well. I mean, it kind of really shows you probably how much just overpriced film is this getting when it comes to their special effects budgets, their everything budgets. It's bloated big time. People just charge more because it's a movie to do the same job. Granted, I think probably some of the things that helped with them is they probably are using the same special effects already developed. Like, the bit of the extremist, it's not as good as the movies, obviously, but it's still pretty damn good. In fact, you look at these same special effects compared to a movie like 6-7 years ago, and they're just as good. Now, next week will tell us how much they maintain that. Like I said, this was the pilot, a pilot they put a ton of money because it was basically... This was a series that was greenlit before I think even the pilot was done. Because it's Marvel. At this point, it's like George Lucas in 1982 going up to Fox or someone saying, by the way, I want to make a TV series with Star Wars. That thing's greenlit before there's even a pilot made. Marvel right now is like that. Give it a few years, maybe the superhero trend will probably be surpassed by something else, but right now it's the height. Not much more else to say, really. We'll see how the rest of the writing team and such, like I said, it's next episode's the big one for us to really tell how it's going to handle itself. The time slot seems pretty good. I mean, NCIS has held the man. It is going up against NCIS, which is the toughie right there. Granted, NCIS comes up against an older audience. I think they're really banking on getting a younger group with this. ABC, not the strongest it's been. Really, because I think their stuff is really neutered. I think probably this gets away with more than anything else, but ABC really does not take risks with their stuff, much to their detriment. That's kind of why they always kind of lag behind a little bit. If it wasn't for the Olympics, and even then they mess over. Was that NBC? Whatever. Still, ABC does come across as a little too family friendly. CBS will at least do a little bit more hard-hitting stuff. But, Disney company. So we'll see. I mean, but like I said, NCIS does have the thing. It is a very, very watched show. It is going right up against it, but it is that Tuesday audience. People Tuesday's the day you just don't do anything. You go to work. It's the worst day of the week to be, because at least Wednesday it's hump day. You get over the hump. Thursday it's the day before Friday. Friday is Friday. Monday, first of the week, you're getting everything started. Tuesday is just the drag day of mostly doing. If you're working in an office, that's your grunt work day. Nobody ever wants to do anything on a Tuesday night, so it's a stay-at-home night. Which means for television, it is a huge ratings day. And this stuff does, as much as you want to, maybe some people are going to roll in their eyes at this part. This is an important part of a show lasting. If you watch my Korra reviews, Legend of Korra, not doing as well in the ratings, and that's probably because they put it on Friday night prime time. No, bad move, I say, on that. Why? Because people go out and do stuff on Friday night. They don't want to sit and watch TV. But we shall see. And I think it'll be very interesting to see come November how they tie this in with the events going on with Thor coming and such. Do they get do they just quickly mention it, or did they really deal with fallout from that episode? It's going to be interesting. I mean, they obviously are showing there's a lot of fallout from the events of the overall Marvel universe. It starts with them hunting down an arms dealer. It's basically he's got a piece of the Chitauri tech, which, I mean, there's thousands of those things laying dead in New York, so poor people scrambled and probably grabbed little bits and pieces of the technology. They couldn't contain all the corpses in time. And you get the other stuff, like the extremist stuff leaking out, people, because Captain America's back, they're starting to look back on that research for the super soldiers. Which, I'm sure because it's been abandoned for 40 years, and in the meantime, before they refound Captain America, they probably declassified a lot of that stuff, because they're like, yeah, whatever, it's 40 years old, who cares about that? Whoopsie. Now he's back, and everyone's really interested in it. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if, now that I think about it, we just talking about Captain America, I'm curious if they kind of have the group that's doing this research, if this is going to tie into Winter Soldier. That maybe this will culminate in them setting up the events of Winter Soldier. That might be the biggie here. I could see them kind of spending this whole time figuring out this group that's kind of doing this research, and to turn out this is Winter Soldier is the accumulation of what the research are doing. So I'm for it. That, if they do that, kudos. And kudos because I called it episode 1. Yeah. But hey, at least it ties everything in together. I wouldn't worry too much at this point worrying about the Avengers 2. Because they still have 2 years for that. 2, 3? I forget what it is. If it's 2 or 3. But you got Guardians of the Galaxy and all that stuff, which worry about that later. That's pretty much all I have. That's it. Like I said, good episode. It's a pilot though, so I'm really kind of holding a lot of my other judgments until next episode. Next episode, we'll really start to see what happens, and I've basically said that 5-6 times already. So I'm calling it there. Obviously, stay tuned for next week. Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, I'll have a Legend of Korra review up. Again, why? Because it's a Friday night, and I have a social life. I know it probably doesn't seem like I do, but I do. So I might not catch it, or it might be a Friday in. So maybe it'll work then. I don't know. So stay tuned for that. Movie stuff. I don't know if I'm gonna have a movie review up this week. Is anything coming out? Oh, I think that Drive or Rush, whatever that is. I think Rush. Yeah. If I go to the movies, it will probably be to see Rush, but I'm not too enthused to see it. That's about it. If nothing else, maybe I'll try to put up a counter monkey, which I haven't done in a while. Yep, that is it. Signing off for now. Please, if you like the video, like it on YouTube here, subscribe, share it with your friends, all the other stuff that people harass you with at the end of their videos. Hasta luego.